If your child is struggling right now, believe me, nothing is broken. This isn't a diagnosis, and this is not a judgment. Also, this is not a race against other children. You don't need to react by pushing harder or trying to fix everything today. But you may need to see learning very differently because much of all what we call as underperformance isn't lack of ability. It's a mismatch between how child learns and what conditions we have placed around this learning. And once you understand that, the pressure shifts from the child and the focus should be on building the right conditions. Let me share something that quietly changes how you see learning. In 1980s, an educational researcher and psychologist, Benjamin Bloom, asked a very simple question. He wasn't trying to fix parenting. He also wasn't trying to change schools. He simply wondered what actually happens when we change the way children learn. And what he discovered was deeply uncomfortable because it suggests something that we rarely want to admit. Maybe the child was never the problem. Before going further, let me clear this. This video is not about grades. This isn't about schools. This isn't about tutors as well. This video is not about raising exceptional children. This is about understanding why so much potential never shows up. And by the end of this video, you should be able to look at the struggles of your child and tell whether it's really a capacity issue or is just a condition issue. Bloom ran a large study across thousands of students. He compared three groups. The first group learned the way most children learn today. One teacher, approximately 30 students, one test, one pace, one timeline. The second group was a smaller group with flexible timelines and a feedback loop associated to it. So the feedback was faster. And the third group received something very specific. Certainly not more intelligence or different parents, but they received mastery based learning, which means they were not able to move forward until and unless they have truly understood what they are learning currently. And if they struggled, the pace was slowed. Things were repeated if required. Feedback was instantaneous. If they needed more time was given. If they did mistakes, mistakes were corrected, however, without penalty. It was okay to make mistakes. Same curriculum, same children, same potential, three different conditions. And the results even shocked Bloom. The average student in the mastery based group outperformed by 98%. The average student in the mastery group performed better than 98% of students in the traditional system. Not slightly better. Statistically, this is two standard deviations better. What you just heard came to be known as the 2 sigma problem. Because Bloom wasn't asking, why are some children exceptional? He was asking, why don't we give children the conditions that allow them to be? And that's the uncomfortable part. Bloom talks about something we rarely talk about. Under the right conditions, what we call average actually disappears. The gap we see in children is rarely about their ability. It's more to do with these three things: the pace, the feedback, and emotional stability. In other simple words, when learning conditions improve, performance improves automatically. Not because children are trying harder, but because their nervous system, their brain system is working with them instead of working against them. And this is why I say most struggles that we see today are not talent issues, but condition issues, which can be resolved at our end. This is definitely not a bad parenting problem. But if you feel that this is unfamiliar, it's okay. It's because these conditions weren't part of our own education. Awareness today is the real and the only shift. Here's the one thing you remember from this entire video. Learning improves not when we increase pressure, but only when we improve the conditions around. I'll say most children don't struggle because of ability. They struggle because the conditions for learning for their particular nature or their particular style are misaligned. And they need to be personalized to them to really make them flourish. So, what does this mean for you as a parent? No 10 things, just 3 small shifts. First, adjust the pace. If your child is stuck, slow the timeline. Give him more time instead of pushing harder. Because in most cases, it's about giving more time. More time is often the solution, not more efforts. Second, protect mastery. Don't move on just because the syllabus is moving on. Understanding matters more than the speed. A calm pause now prevents a lot of confusion later. And third, keep the nervous system, the brain system safe. Learning only sticks when the child feels safe enough to make mistakes. Connection before correction is not just a philosophy, it's the way, it's the manner in which real learning happens. That's it. No pressure, no comparison, just better conditions. Apply it to whatever field, whatever sector you believe that your child should improve and is struggling on. What's more fascinating is this. Benjamin Bloom did not invent the idea behind the two sigma effect. In fact, he discovered it because long before the modern schools, the ancient civilizations already knew something different about learning, something that we have since forgotten. When learning is mass manufactured, the spirit disengages. And when learning is personal, potential emerges. Across cultures, the same principle kept appearing quietly, consistently, and inevitably. In ancient India, the learning didn't happen in batches, but it happened through mentorship. The student lived with the teacher. There was no fixed syllabus. There was no race with time. The curriculum was the student. The guru observed the child's intrinsic nature, that is called as swabhava, how they grasp ideas. It is what that energizes them. When is the right time to move forward? The teacher did not push, they just waited and observed. And they only progressed when mastery was clear. Not because some calendar said so, but because the learner was ready. Education was never one size fits all. Do they think visually? Do they learn by doing? Do they need quiet or discussion? Honor their nature instead of forcing them and design the learning conditions accordingly. Now, if we move to the West, we see the same insight expressed slightly differently. Socrates never gave lectures. He never delivered answers to questions. He asked questions instead because he understood something very crucial, that insight generated lasts much longer than just information that is received. In a normal classroom, children listen. In one to one dialogue, the learner must think. This active retrieval strengthens understanding in a way passive listening never can. So, whenever your child asks a question next, pause for a bit. Instead of answering back immediately, turn it back gently. That's interesting. What do you think? Guide them towards an insight. Don't carry them there. And in ancient China, the same respect for individuality appears again. Confucius would often give different answers to the same questions, not because he was inconsistent, but he would answer based on who was asking the question. He famously taught in accordance of the aptitude because fairness in education was never about sameness. It was about fit, giving each learner what they needed to grow. Different cultures, different centuries, the same principle, same wisdom. When you slow the pace, you're honoring the readiness and not lowering standards. When you protect mastery, you are choosing understanding over speed, just like how the ancient mentors did. And when you keep the nervous system, the brain system safe, true learning happens. You are creating the conditions where the learning naturally sticks. This isn't modern parenting theory, but it's ancient human truth. You are not being permissive, but you are being precise. You are not rejecting discipline, but in fact, you are restoring alignment. Across India, across Greece, across East Asia, across neuroscience, the message is the same. Learning flourishes not under pressure, but under right conditions. So when you slow the pace, protect mastery, and keep the nervous system, brain system safe, you are not being lenient, but in fact, you are being deeply aligned to the way humans learn the best. This isn't lowering standards, it's raising conditions. Now, to conclude, Bloom showed us this. Your child is not the problem. It was never the child. Your child's potential is not missing. It's waiting for the right conditions. So tonight, don't ask, how do I make my child do better today? Ask instead, what condition can I improve? This one question changes everything. At Curio Minds, we don't chase outcomes. We believe in alignment. We design environments where growth happens naturally. This space exists for all those parents who choose understanding over urgency, connection over correction, and curiosity over comparison. If this way of learning resonates with you, you're already a part of this journey. So until next time, stay curious with Curio Minds, crafting futures together.